Hello, and welcome to Faith and Federalism, where I take issues governmentally and analyze them theologically. Today, I just wanted to talk about a couple of things. Kamala went on the Oprah Winfrey show and had a little town hall, and then I also wanted to talk about the death of Amber Thurman. So let's get started. When Kamala went on Oprah, they kept talking about stopping Trump, but I don't really understand that because Trump is not in office right now. And they kept saying turn the page, but turn the page on what? Because Biden Harris is still in office. So do they want to turn the page of Biden Harris? Because if so, then that means they want Trump in office. And I noticed that it was very race based. They had a Pacific Islander, a black man, a white man, and a white woman all stand up and asked on behalf of their race what they think needs to happen for the election. And they also said that it was very important for women to vote, which I don't understand unless they're only focusing on the fact that Kamala is a woman. And they kept saying phrases such as do the work and do something, but I don't really know what that means, what do the work means. They did say that do the work was like talking to their Republican friends and family members and stuff like that and do something, but I don't necessarily know what that means in the grand scheme of things. Kamala did say that we have so much more in common than what separates us, and that in the face of a stranger, see a neighbor. But these are both things that the left does not do because they separate and divide people into race and gender, and they never want to have civil discussions. She spent the majority of her career being concerned about the well being of other people, but we have to remember that she locked up black men for smoking weed and then laughed about it. So a guy named Justin was called to stand and said that when you become president, what would be your specific steps to strengthening the border? She went on to say what she always says, that she's an attorney general and prosecutor, and that she's prosecuted transnational organizations for bringing in guns, drugs, and humans. She said that she takes seriously the importance of having a secure border and the safety of the American people, but she was caught chanting down, down with deportation. So I don't necessarily think that she's too concerned about it. And then she said where we are now can be traced back to the US Congress, and then came up with the border security bill, and Trump told the Republicans to kill the bill. That's not necessarily true, but she said that Trump would prefer to run on a problem than fix a problem. And these are all the same things that she said at the debate in the DNC. But she did say that she would reintroduce the border security bill if she's elected to office. But the problem when she answers questions is that she's not really answering questions. She's just going on a tangent. And Oprah had to keep kind of like reeling her in to answer the questions because she would just go off and start talking about all this stuff, but she wouldn't say actually what she would do. She's just talked about what she's done. Now on to the cost of living. So we obviously know that Biden Harris made the cost of living go up. And there was a couple named Rachel and Garrett, and they had to move in with their parents and give up their apartment. Their mortgage is higher than what they expected, and now their brother-in-law and sister are living with them. So she wanted to know, well, they wanted to know, what is the plan to lower the cost of living? She says that this story is what she hears around the country, which isn't necessarily a compliment to her and her administration because she's hearing this. If she's hearing this across the country, then that means that she's not doing a good job. And she said that the American dream is far more elusive than it has been, but obviously that's because of her administration. But what she said that she would do is price gouging to bring down the cost of groceries, which obviously doesn't work because the price of groceries are now going to go up because everything's competing with each other. And she said that she talked about the American dream that her mom was able to achieve, that she grew up a middle class kid and that her mom didn't get a house until they were a teenager and that they lived in the apartment above the school or something that she used to live in. And so she started going on and on and on about that, always explaining things about herself, but never for other people. And then the famous words, the $25,000 down payment to buy your first home. And then she said that people will put their foot in the door, need to get their foot in the door, and then they'll put in the hard work, but not necessarily, because when you're given something, especially $25,000, you're not necessarily going to do hard work because you've already been given all this money. You don't really need to do any hard work because you've already been able to buy the house. So I don't necessarily know what she meant by saying that they're going to do the hard work. And then she said that she's going to give startup small businesses a $50,000 tax deduction to start up their businesses. And she said that right now it's $5,000, but I wanted to know who made it $5,000. Was it their administration? Because that's your problem. You could automatically make a $50,000 tax deduction right now if it's $5,000 under your administration, or even if it's not under your administration, you could have done that already. And then she talked about the child tax credit, expanding that to $6,000. Like I said, these are all the same things that she said during the debate. She doesn't have a true plan, and she doesn't really have a plan, and she doesn't know what else to say. And also there was a teleprompter running and we saw this in the background. There was a teleprompter running from a different angle. Somebody recorded it, and she had a teleprompter. So I'm not sure if she was reading off the teleprompter or if she was being genuine. Clearly she wasn't being genuine, because she says the exact same things every single time, no matter what you ask her. That's all she knows how to say. But the point with the child tax credit is that you can't have a $6,000 child tax credit if you don't have kids due to the reproductive freedoms, aka abortion, because they're so fixated on abortion up to 9 months that there's no having kids. So there's no need for a $6,000 child tax credit. So that really doesn't make any sense either. And then, of course, she always talks about this opportunity economy thing that she came up with, but I don't really know what that means, because if it's an opportunity economy right now, nobody has the opportunities, which is why they tuned into the show to get some answers on what she's going to do when she becomes president. We also have Shelby. Shelby is a graduate student living with her parents, and she wants to buy a home, but she's concerned about the affordability with her current and future bills. And she's worried about her capacity and how she can fully support herself. Kamala said that she wants to push back a different vision for our country. I don't know what that is. She didn't elaborate on that, but she blamed Trump on giving a tax break to billionaires. She's not really answering the question. She also talked about the Trump sales tax that he's going to put on American goods, which isn't true, because he specifically said that he was going to put tariffs on foreign goods. She said that his approach is weakening the economy and hers is about lifting people up. I don't necessarily know what that means either, if she's talking about lifting people up morally or lifting people up economically. And then she said, when the middle class is strong, America is strong, but right now the middle class is weak. And so I don't necessarily see her making the middle class any stronger anytime soon if she's going based on the same rhetoric that she's been running on this entire time, and the same rhetoric that she's been, pushing since she's been in office. Then they had a Fighting for Reproductive Rights bus tour, which was at the DNC. So they said that patients who are in states where abortion is banned are 3 times more likely to die during pregnancy, childbirth, or soon after giving birth. I'm not exactly sure how this is possible, but they had Hadley Reval come on, and she was the woman that gave her speech about being raped by her stepfather and having an abortion. And she said that there's someone that's willing to hear them at a level that they've never been heard before. So she said to show out and show up like Kamala is showing out and showing up for them. Now the story of Amber Thurman. I will get to this later, but I will give a basic overview of what happened. So she lost her life due to the abortion bill, but her parents and her siblings and Kamala Harris and basically everybody who's uninformed is blaming Georgia for the strict abortion ban and the doctors killing her. She had suffered profuse bleeding, pain, and passed out due to the pill. Her body did not expel all of the fetal tissue, and doctors waited 20 hours before taking her to a surgery for a DNC. So it's the doctor's fault because they waited, not the Georgia law, and the abortion pill killed her. But her mother wanted people to know that this was preventable. And yes, it was preventable if they didn't send her home with the abortion pill to die. Kamala is telling people that doctors will face prison for life for those who provide healthcare, even if the mother's life is in danger, saying that it's a healthcare crisis and that after a person's body has been violated, they have no right to make a decision about what happens to their body next. But it's not their body. There's a baby inside, and that body has nothing to do with that other person's body. As in terms of saying that the doctors will face prison for life for those who provide healthcare, even if the mother's life is in danger. That's not true. If a woman is having a miscarriage, then an immediate and emergency DNC needs to be done. And if the baby is already dead, then there is no abortion being performed. It's an abortion in the fact that the body is expelling fetal tissue, but it's not killing the baby. And Oprah said that the government has no right to be in your womb. And Kamala said again that one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree that the government doesn't have the right to tell her what to do. This is not true because because one does have to abandon their faith to get an abortion. You have to abandon your faith to vote for abortion. If you're voting for Kamala Harris, that's a vote for abortion. You do have to abandon your faith in the fact that abortion is a religious belief, like the lack of abortion is a religious belief. Honestly, abortion is a religious belief for Satanists because they do perform ritual abortions, but I digress. The lack thereof of an abortion is a religious belief because we believe that babies were made in their mother's womb by God and that nobody can take that life away. When it comes to gun control, Kamala again said that she's in favor of the Second Amendment and an assault weapons ban. I'm not sure how the two relate if you're in favor of the Second Amendment and an assault weapons ban. I also wanted to know what an assault weapon was. I keep saying what is an assault weapon, so I decided to look it up myself. But assault weapons has no real term and it can apply to different types of firearms. She also said if someone breaks into my house, they're getting shot. This is an elitist view because if they take our guns, we won't be able to protect ourselves. I have an AR-15 personally, and she wants to take these because that's what she calls assault weapons, and she wants to take these. So I don't necessarily know how we're able to protect ourselves, but she, of course, will be able to protect herself once she does the buybacks and the assault weapons ban. Meryl Streep asked, what happens when you win and Trump doesn't accept it? I was very confused by this because what would happen? He can't do anything because he's not in office. He can't ask for the election to be decertified. There's nothing that he can do. He's not going to do anything. These people are so afraid of Trump and what he's going to do when he never says that these are things that he's going to do. He never said that he won't accept the election. Even if he doesn't accept the election, think about it. He's not in office. So what is he going to do? They keep saying, what about the peaceful transition of power? There will not be a transition of power between parties because it would just be Biden handing it off to Kamala. So I don't necessarily know what they mean by the peaceful transition of power and if Trump will accept it because he's not in power right now. So there's nothing that he even would be able to do. But this is why I don't like liberals, because they try to do all this fear mongering and everything, and then they say that it's us that are trying to do the fear mongering. But we are fearful of things that actually are relevant to our society, like the fact that babies are being aborted, illegals are coming over to our country at an unprecedented rate, crime is at an all-time high, and also the fact that we could lose our country to communism. They're worried about the fact that they can't kill their kid. And they're worried about the fact that someone who's not even in office isn't going to have a peaceful transition of power, which makes absolutely no sense. So I really can't stand liberals, but obviously if you know me for more than a day, you'd know that. So Amber Thurman. What happened to Amber Thurman? She was a young mom with a 6-year-old little boy, and she found out that she was pregnant with twins. And she had just gotten her apartment secured, and so she decided she wanted to get an abortion. She missed her appointment in North Carolina, so they gave her abortion pills to take. She had to travel to North Carolina because the Georgia ruling prohibited abortion after 6 weeks. This isn't an abortion ban, it's just an abortion limitation after 6 weeks gestation. So on the second day of taking the pill, she had bleeding and a severe infection due to the retained pregnancy tissue, which is the children. She needed a DNC, which is when the patient's cervix is dilated and the children are taken out. This is done both in abortions and to treat natural miscarriages. And in this case, it wasn't an abortion, it wasn't a natural miscarriage, but it was a miscarriage from the fact that she took the abortion pill. So when she got to the hospital, they made her wait 3 hours to give her antibiotics, and the hospital waited 20 hours to give her this treatment, and she died during the procedure. So the fault is of the hospital because they did not provide an immediate DNC and initiation of antibiotics. But pro-abortionists are blaming pro-life laws in Georgia, saying that it was a felony to do a DNC. It's illegal to perform a DNC as an abortion, but not if the babies are already dead, which they already were dead. And a statistic is that 2.9 to 4.6% of women need to receive emergency treatment due to a fatal infection after taking mifepristone. And so that's about 20,000 emergency room visits per taking the pill. So how do we relate this all back to the gospel? Well, I just wanted to say Amber's death was preventable because if she hadn't been given the abortion pills, she wouldn't have been in this predicament. But also, it's the hospital's fault because they waited so long to give her the pill or to give her treatment for the DNC out of the fear, I guess, of what Kamala Harris keeps saying, that doctors will face life in prison for doing abortions and doing DNCs. But the problem is the DNC was not an abortion. It can be used to do an abortion, but in this case, it was not an abortion. She needed the fetal tissue of her dead twins cleaned out of her body, and then she wouldn't have gone into sepsis and died. And they shouldn't have waited 20 hours to perform this on her. I guess they were trying to lawyer up and find out what the legal repercussions were of this, but there were no legal repercussions. And if they actually studied the law and they knew like how to practice, because this is a severe case of medical malpractice, then Amber would have been alive today. It's not based on the pro-life law in Georgia. Just because you can't get an abortion doesn't mean that you'll automatically die. And that wasn't the case for Amber. She could get an abortion. She got a medical abortion, and she ended up dying due to medical malpractice. So again, how do we relate this all back to the gospel? In terms of abortion, like I always say, God made us in our mother's womb, and he made us and knows us fully well. And he made us, and that's what's important. Ending that life is not our right to choose. And if we don't have the right to life, then we don't have any other rights. When it comes to the cost of living, giving out money to be able to live is not really how things go. The Bible does say that we need to work to earn a living, and even God worked and he rested on the seventh day. When it comes to illegal immigration, like I always say, God created borders and he meant for us to stay within those borders and, within reason, travel within those borders. But to break a law, Jesus was perfect, and so he never did that. And for those who say that he was a refugee, he was escaping being killed for being the savior of the world, and Herod did not want that challenged. And so that way he had to flee in order to grow up so that he could be our savior. So that's all I have to say for today. I would love it if you guys would give me a rating and if you would subscribe to my podcast. Also, if you wouldn't mind following me on my YouTube channel and Twitter and Instagram, I would love that. My YouTube and Instagram are at Faith and Federalism, and my Twitter is at Faith and Fed. And when it comes to politics, remember that faith comes first. See you in my next episode.